All right, in this video we're going to talk about resource guarding, which is a very natural thing for dogs to do. All animals guard resources just as we would if we're on a deserted island and I have the only chicken on the island. I got other people from the other camp scoping out my chicken. I want to make them move away because that's a resource that I need for my survival. That's why dogs develop this skill. However, when we domesticate them, they don't really need to have resource guarding because we provide everything for them, but it is something that happens frequently. Now, technically, resource guarding is not considered an aggressive behavior because as soon as you remove the item that they're guarding, it goes away. Also, a lot of people misinterpret resource guarding as something else as resource guarding. Dogs, it's very inappropriate for your dog to be within 7 feet of anyone who is eating. And so for the dog, if one dog is eating and another dog approaches and it growls at the other dog, that's not resource guarding. That's saying, hey man, back off, give me some space to eat my food. So that's a very common misconception a lot of people have. Now a dog can guard an object, it can guard a person, it can guard a location. Oftentimes they do it with food or food bowls or kennels or high value items like a bone or things along those lines. The more that the guardians talk about Jax's situation here, though, the more I think that this is more of just him being an adolescent than resource guarding. But this is something we go over in our puppy socialization class because it's really important that you go over it. So now this is a bully stick, which is a dried bull's penis. The guardian just learned something new. Now, if I'm holding it, it's mine. If I give it to the dog, it's the dog's. If I hold it like this, it's ours. I still am retaining control. Now, I wanted him to get into it. Now, he's a nervous puppy, and so you can see how far away he's sitting from me. I've been working on building up his confidence towards me, but we had a lot of issues that we're covering. So you wanted the dog to feel nice and calm and comfortable. Now, what I would do is a couple things. First of all, I teach my dog to have a strong drop command. Now, you can do that. This is what we call a high-value item because he can ingest this. He's never had this before. He really wants this item. And even though he's fearful of me, he's willing to keep on chewing on it because it's a really tasty, good item. Now, when he has a bone or anything that he is allowed to have, the first thing I would do is have you teach your dog to drop things. The way you do that is if he's got it, I just hold this in front of his nose, drop. Now, I'm not letting this go because this is a higher value item, but when he has a bone or something he's allowed to have, you won't be holding it, he'll have it. Make sure he has it in his mouth. It's not on the floor holding it like this. He's got it in his mouth. Walk over to him, hold the treat in front of his nose. Now what he'll try to do is he'll try to take it with the item in his mouth. Don't do that. Wait, just wait, and don't give him any commands. As soon as he drops it, don't go for the item. Pop the treat in his mouth, and then just hold still. He'll come back and he'll start chewing on or pick up the original item. What we want him to understand is when I'm asking you to drop something, if you drop it, I'm going to hook you up with something amazing, really high value training treats. And we start off with a low value item because this is a high value item. He's not going to want to give this up. But it's something he's allowed to have at all times. Sure, I'm happy to give that up because I get that at any point in time. And so we practice and we shape and build that behavior first with low value items until you say drop and he drops anything that you want. Now, I don't have one here, but I like going to the green spot. But you can go to any high-end pet store, it'll have these, a marrow bone. The bone that we have over here probably was a marrow bone. It's a real bone. The ones I would suggest you get for him are 1-inch marrow bones. So it's a long bone like this and it's cut. Here, I'll actually grab the bone here. So it would be like a 1-inch sliver of this, a real bone. Now inside it, there's going to be marrow. Marrow is a very rich substance that dogs really like. Now it'll make your carpet a little bit messy if you don't clean it up right away, so get it on it right away. So what you want to do is when the dog, after you've taught your dog how to drop things on command, then what you want to do is have them practice chewing on things while you hold on to it. So you hold on to it and you're letting him chew on it, let him get really into it. And then when he really gets into it while you're holding it, you start off by going like that, drop. And I didn't move the object away. So he stopped chewing on it, got a treat. It's not quite a drop because I'm still holding on to it. But then he went back to chewing on it again. Now I keep on doing it, and now when I do that, I can't do it with him because, like I said, he's a little bit nervous, he moves away. But what I would like to do is while he's chewing on this, ideally I'd like to have his head here and his butt here orientated this way. So he's pointed this way. While he's chewing on it, I want to touch him while he's chewing on it. Now I start chewing, petting him way here at the back, and the closer you get, eventually you want to be right under his chin. But you'll kind of get in this region and he'll start, and that's a normal reaction. But you want to keep on practicing until you get all the way up here, and then the dog is not reactive because you're not trying to pull it. And that's why we don't want to force things out of our dog's mouth. We want to drop things and let the dog just drop it on its own, and then occasionally we will pick the object up, and if you're going to take something away, like he has a shoe, If you take it away, make sure you give him a value item of equal or greater value. Otherwise, he won't be inclined to give it up in the future. So, okay. Now, resource guarding is basically the dog thinking that when someone approaches me, they're going to take my stuff. And so we need to teach the dog that when you have this item, nobody's going to take your stuff. Matter of fact, when someone or something approaches you, your situation is going to improve. Now, we have the second dog on a leash, and because he's standoffish, I don't know if we'll be able to actually demonstrate it on this video, so I'm just going to describe what's going on. So what we would want to do is, let's say that he's here, and you might actually need to tether him here so he can't, because a lot of times they'll go to a different area. What we want him to do is be in an area where we control. So if he's here chewing on this, and he's tethered to the wall, we put the other dog on a leash, and we start approaching. Now, I would start off like in your pantry, or the other room. So you're so far away, and don't just come around this corner, come around the other corner so that he could see that dog at a great enough distance. Now, there's certain distance that you'll get to, then he's going to start growling, getting tense, staring. Sorry, buddy, I'm not trying to, but all those, even though I'm a human, he interpreted those things. So when you see the dog starting to do that, it's getting ready to protect. So you want to take, as you're approaching the dog, the other dog would be on a leash. We're going to approach, and as soon as we get to the point where that dog is about to start being growly or send warning signs, I don't like what you're doing, then what I'm going to do is I'm going to drop a treat or throw the treat, and then we're going to take that dog and walk away and walk out of the eyesight. Take note of how far away you were from that dog, and then let the dog get back into chewing his bone. And maybe you have somebody sitting here on the couch and they cough twice, and that means, okay, we're ready. The person brings the other dog out again and starts approaching. Now, sometimes you can't throw the treat from there, so you'd have maybe a human sitting here. Sometimes the dog is resource guarding for a dog and not for humans. If it is for humans, I always work on the humans first. So basically what we're saying is when a human approaches you, you don't have to guard your stuff because the human's not going to take it, but they're going to make your situation better. And because we created the drop command, we can use that if we need to. We don't really would use it at this point. What we do is just have the person come, and maybe they're at 15 feet. And at 15 feet, the dog starts getting, Jack starts getting tense. So we just toss the treat, and we walk away. And then we come back, and we keep on doing that until at 15 feet, Jax is no longer responding. Then we repeat the process. This time we go to 14 feet and toss the treat. And these have to be really, really high-value treats. It has to be something Jax really, really likes. And now this is going to be a process that's going to take over and over and over. It's not going to be one sitting. But take note of how close you got. And let's say we were able to get to 10 feet. This is going to be very physically draining for the dog. So at 10 feet, then we basically might come over here, maybe take the other dog for a walk and let him finish. I like doing this with marrow bones because there's an end date. And plus you get all the little bones that you can have laying around for them to play on. Now sometimes the marrow, they won't be able to get to all of it, so I take a bully stick and I'll push it through so the dog can get it so it doesn't get on our carpet, but then leave it down, and those are great chew toys for the dog to have. Here you go, buddy. And so what we're doing is we're teaching the dog that when you have something and the other dog or a human approaches, they're not going to take your stuff, they're going to make your situation better. So it's going to be a process. Eventually you get closer and closer and closer, and then you get to the point where you can be right here and the dog doesn't growl or react. Now I like to tackle this in a couple of different angles. Like I said, I want for the humans to be holding it together and to the point where I can get up to here and petting it and it's still chewing on the thing and not growling at all. At that point what I do is I let the dog have the item, hold it out for a while, then let him have it, and then when they're here or tethered, I don't necessarily tethered, but have them in a confined room, then walk up to them and hold the treat in front of their nose. We want to make sure they're not reactive before we do this step. Then we hold the treat and they drop the item, pop the treat in their mouth, and then we walk away and they get the item back again. And the key in this is they always get the item back. We're not trying to take it. And eventually we get to the point where we can do the same touching when the dog has it and we're not holding on to it and get all the way up here and it's not reacting. We can actually take it away from them and give them a treat and then give it back to them. And that's something we do want to work in there so we understand that, hey, even if the human takes it away from you, you're going to get it back and you're going to get something better in the meantime. Now we have another dog, we put the other dog on a leash to control that dog. But that's why we'd always do the human first. That way the human is not what the dog's reacting to. Jack's be reacting to Zoe. But after you do this, and this takes practice, and if you're watching this home and it's not one of you guys watching this, and you're watching it and you have a puppy, you want to do this as small as the puppy is, because when they have weak mouths, that's the time to do this. He could actually do a little bit of damage. He can do a lot more damage later on. Now, like I said, I don't know if this is actually resource guarding or if this is just a jealousy, which would be more appropriate for a 5-month-old puppy. But for resource guarding, again, you want the dog to understand that when a human approaches or another dog approaches, they're not going to take my stuff, they're going to make my situation better. It'll take some time, take notes of how close you are, and make sure you vary the angles. Don't always go from this angle, and don't always just do it here. You want to do it here, in the front room, in the basement, in the bedrooms, in different areas, and we want to approach from different angles and different times of the day and with different stimulus going on, because we need to recreate all the real world elements. Now, a bigger room, the dog's going to feel more confident. A more confined room, I'd probably be more apt to control and be more reactive at a shorter leash. So when you're doing this, it's helpful to do a journal. I approach for 10 feet from the front. So maybe I'm a dog chewing on it, and first I'm getting used to this way. Well, then I want to have somebody practice approaching me this way and approaching me from behind. And so we want to desensitize the dog from all these different approaches at different times of days, all of these variables, so that any of the humans can come up and get the dog to drop it and then take the item away. And eventually the other dog can approach and he no longer reacts, because when the other dog approaches, treats literally fall from the sky. This is how you can teach your dog to stop resource guarding.